It's competition, and it can only be one winner. It can't be two winners. It can only be one winner. So it's either gonna be you or me, and I'm gonna get you before you.
Lamont Roach is coming for Devon Davis. That's not just talk. It's a warning in a fight that many have already written off as another easy payday for Davis. Roach is stepping into the ring on Saturday at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York, with a point to prove he believes he's the first opponent Tank has ever faced, who has both the confidence and the skills to actually beat him.
Overall being something that he's not been in the ring with. I'm the total package, and honestly, sometimes I think he doubts himself. But I'm a competitor, and I feel like I'm the best.
It's a bold claim, especially considering the path Davis has taken to become one of boxing's biggest stars, with an undefeated record of 30-0-2, 8 of those wins coming by knockout. Tank is known for his devastating power and ability to shut down fights in an instant. His resume includes names like Ryan Garcia, Leo Santa Cruz, and Mario Barra's fighters, who had solid records and big reputations before stepping in with him, but didn't last when Tank landed his best shots. Roach, however, isn't impressed.
That lawnmower, that's that. Stop that motherfucker lawnmower.
In a recent interview with Shazid, Roach made it clear that he sees a different reality. It's a competition, and there can only be one winner. I'm going to get you before you get me, he said. He then doubled down, claiming that most of Tank's past opponents lacked belief in themselves. It's all about confidence. It's all about what you set out to do and how hard you work to be able to do what it takes. I think a lot of the opponents lack that. Roach singled out Pitbull Cruz as the only fighter who truly came in with confidence against Davis. But he also said that Cruz didn't have the skill set to actually win. That's where Roach believes he's different. He sees himself as the total package, the fighter who can finally expose.
He took this fight for the naysayers and all this and all the people talking shit about the fight. I think he actually took the fight because he know that I'm a dog, and he want to prove his skills against the dog. So I'm gonna show y'all what happens when two dogs get in the.
But here's the problem: a lot of boxing fans aren't buying it. Many believe this fight is a blatant cherry pick. Roach is coming up from 130 pounds, a weight class below lightweight, where Tank holds his WBA title. He's also not known for his knockout power, with only 10 KOs and 25 wins. That means Tank can afford to be aggressive, walk Roach down, and trade big shots without too much fear of getting hurt. Critics argue that this is the perfect kind of opponent for Davis, a smaller fighter with decent boxing skills, but not enough power to truly keep him off. Still, Roach is fully embracing the underdog role. Speaking to TMZ Sports, he made a shocking statement. He plans to end Tank's career.
He's going to retire at the end of next year. Do you think he has one foot out the door?
Yeah, for sure. I think that was a mistake for him to say that, especially in front of me. So, I'm going to just take advantage of him and show him why he shouldn't have said that or why he shouldn't be contemplating that.
Davis has publicly stated that this will be his final year in boxing. But Roach wants to speed up that process. If he's on his way out, why not kick him out? Roach said. If that sounds personal, it's because it is. Roach has made it clear that he's tired of being overlooked, and this fight is his opportunity to shake up the entire sport. I like to prove people wrong, and I damn sure like to prove myself right, he said. Right now, they really got me effed up. So I got it on the agenda to upset a lot of people. While Roach has never fought at 135. Even if Roach is as skilled as he claims, he'll have to deal with Tank's relentless pressure and fight-ending power. And unlike Pitbull Cruz, who gave Tank trouble with an ultra-aggressive, relentless style, Roach is more of a technical boxer who relies on movement and counterpunching. That could be a problem, especially considering how well Davis handles fighters who try to box him from the outside. Some fans and analysts have questioned whether Davis is fully locked in for this fight.
Little clips, like you see how man Helm was talking and then somebody else talked in his crew. That's what get me up. That's what made me I always want to prove to.
Since knocking out Ryan Garcia in April 2023, Tank has been out of the ring for nearly a year. During that time, he's had his share of distractions, legal troubles, social media drama, and ongoing debates about his retirement. He's talked about leaving boxing multiple times, and some wonder if his mind is already halfway out the door. If Roach is going to pull off an upset, this might be his best chance. Long layoffs can lead to rust, And if Tank underestimates him, there could be openings to exploit. But even then, Roach will have to fight the perfect fight to survive 12 rounds with one of the hardest hitters in the sport.
And Baltimore guys don't like each other.
You know what I mean?
So it was the DC guy that I got into it with.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean? So one of the older guys named Dana, he basically
Fight will be the main event of a PBC on Prime Video pay-per-view priced at $80. In the co-main event, WBA light welterweight champion Jose Rio Valenzuela will defend his belt against Gary Antone Russell in what many expect to be a war for Roach. This fight is everything a win would instantly catapult him into boxing superstardom. He has already said that if he wins, he wants to fight another champion, whether at 130 or 135 pounds. He sees this as the start of a legacy-defining run.
Not really trying to get in his personal business. Probably just showing him that, you know, I could do anything, especially.
But that all depends on whether he can back up his words. Davis has heard opponents talk big before Hector Luis Garcia said he would outbox Tank. Ryan Garcia said he would knock him out in 2 rounds. Rolly Romero called him overrated. All of them had confidence before the fight. And all of them stopped. Roach believes he's different now. He has to prove it in the ring. However, those who have faced Tank know how this will go.
chill out. Like, nah.
DC and Baltimore don't fuck with each other.
Yeah, they
like
don't.
that.
One thing about it, the city gonna show up for you.
Rolando Romero didn't hold back when breaking down the Devon Davis versus Lamont Roach fight. And honestly, he made some strong points. If anyone knows what it's like to be on the receiving end of Tank's power, it's Rolly. He went into his fight against Tank cocky, talking all that trash, and then got folded by a single punch in the 6th round. So when he says this fight is stacked in Davis's favor, he's not just throwing out random opinions, he's speaking from personal experience.
I think Lamont Roach is a terrific fighter. He might be a little over his head with Gervonta Davis. Gervonta Davis is, I mean, to say the least, he's a beast. He really is.
The weight difference is the biggest issue. Roach is moving up from 130 pounds to face a proven knockout artist at 135. And if we're being real, this isn't just about 5 pounds on the scale. It's about fighting someone who has spent years breaking down naturally bigger, stronger opponents. Tank has flattened super lightweights like Mario Barros, who had an obvious size advantage, but still couldn't handle the power. Roach, on the other hand, has been comfortable at super featherweight, a division where speed and finesse matter more than raw strength. Against Tank, that advantage disappears. He won't be the fastest fighter. He won't be the stronger one, and he definitely won't be the more powerful. Music. One Raleigh made it clear, everything is in Tank's favor. And when you break it down, he's right, the experience gap is massive. Roach has only had one fight against a truly elite opponent, Hector Garcia, who was good, but nowhere near Tank's level. And let's not forget, Garcia himself got stopped by Davis in a fight where he literally quit on stool. Romero didn't even entertain the idea of Roach winning, saying no, just too much experience, too much power, big weight. That's coming from a guy who is also naturally bigger than Roach and still couldn't handle Tank's power. The only way Roach has a shot is if Tank has an off night, and even then it would take something crazy. Maybe Tank comes in out of shape, maybe he's rusty from the layoff, maybe he underestimates Roach and takes too long to turn it up. But even then, it's hard to see a scenario where Roach lands anything that really troubles Davis. He doesn't have the kind of power that forces respect, and his defensive style isn't built to deal with a relentless pressure fighter who can cut off the ring and land at will. Romero pointed out another key difference between himself and Roach. You can't compare my fight to Dant with Roach's fight, because I'm another puncher. That's true. Raleigh came into his fight with Davis thinking he could match power with power. He was reckless, he talked a big game, and he made it music, personal. Roach isn't built like that. He's a more composed technical fighter. But that might actually work against him if he tries to outbox Tank. He's putting himself in a position where he has to be perfect for 12 rounds. That's almost impossible against a guy who only needs one opening to end the fight. Even if Roach somehow survives what comes next, he's already talking about moving up to 140 and taking on Jose Valenzuela, which raises even more questions. If Roach is already thinking about the next weight class, does that mean he's not fully committed to lightweight? Does he see this fight as a one-off, a chance to get a big PID day before moving up again? And if he does lose, what does that do to his confidence? Fighters who take these kinds of risks often end up in no man's land, too small for the new weight class, too damaged to go back down. Roach seems convinced he can hang at 135, saying, "I think me and Rue would be a good matchup at 140 pounds. But that's another questionable move. Valenzuela just came off an impressive win over Isaac Cruz, a guy who's known for his relentless pressure and ability to take big shots. If Roach thinks he can jump from Tank straight into a fight with Valenzuela, he might be setting himself up for back-to-back beatdowns.
Tank and Lamont Roach. Is that the right opponent for Tank?
I don't know why everybody is kind of sleeping on Lamont, but he has a decorated amateur career too. He's a very sturdy kid. He's very skilled. Tank is Tank, you know.
And let's not forget, if he somehow pulls off the upset against Tank, there's going to be an immediate rematch. There's no way Davis walks away from a loss without running it back, and that means Roach would have to beat him twice. That's a nightmare scenario for any fighter. It's one thing to pull off an upset once, but doing it again when Tank has time to adjust, that's a whole different story.
There's a rematch clause, people, so get ready for 2 fights. But, yes, and after I beat him the second time, I probably would ask the WBA to let me go up to 140 and fight.
Roach has skills. He's sharp, defensively sound, and disciplined in the ring. But this isn't about skill. It's about surviving against one of the most dangerous punchers in the sport. Romero knows it, the fans know it, and deep down, Roach probably knows it too. Unless something goes horribly wrong for Davis, this fight ends the same way all his fights do, with another highlight reel knockout. The question then becomes, what does a win over Roach even do for Tank? If he demolishes him early, critics will say it was expected. If he struggles, people will start questioning whether he's slowing down. Either way, it's not the kind of fight that builds his legacy. Fans want to see him against Shocker Stevenson, Vasiliy Lomachenko, or even Devin.
Be a party on your floor. I'm gonna let y'all know something. His father was up here shaking on the what's his name? He was shaking on the
I think everybody that played a part in it. My team, Roberto Diaz, Gary Jonas.
On my kids, he was shaking on this thing. On my kids, he was shaking. How you gonna say his cap? And you gonna say?
But Tank isn't worried about proving himself to the fans. He's about business. And from a business standpoint, this fight makes sense. It's an easy payday, a winnable fight on pay-per-view, and it keeps him active before bigger challenges later in the year. The real test will come if he follows through on his retirement talk. If he's serious about walking away from the sport at the end of 2024, then we might never see him against the top names at 135. And that's where things get interesting. If Roach somehow shocks the world and beats Tank, it flips everything upside down. Suddenly Tank's career is in question. Does he retire on a loss? Does he activate the rematch and risk back-to-back defeats? And what happens to the lightweight division? It's unlikely, but crazier things have happened in boxing. If Roach is as confident as he claims, he'll come in looking to make a statement. He knows the odds are against him. He knows most people expect him to get knocked out. And sometimes that kind of mentality can bring out something special in a fighter at the end of the day. Though Romero's assessment is hard to argue with size, power, experience, Tank has every advantage. If Roach pulls this off, it'll go down as one of the biggest upsets in recent boxing history. But if we're being realistic, it's just another Tank Davis showcase, another brutal knockout, and another reminder that when it comes to putting guys to sleep, nobody does it better than him. The Gloves Off series tried hard to make this fight seem bigger than it is. But no amount of dramatic music and slow-motion shots can erase the reality. Lamont Roach Jr. is not the opponent fans wanted for Devon Davis. He's not the guy that makes headlines, and he's certainly not the fighter that brings real danger to Tank's undefeated record. But that's exactly why premier boxing champions had to turn up the production value. because outside of the hardcore boxing world, people aren't buying this as a real challenge.
Junior coming up for 130. How many buys do you think this does, my brother?
I mean, 350 is what Tank and Frank did, and Frank wasn't a champion. Roach has been around. He lost to Jamel Herring. He came.
From the jump, the press conference didn't help sell the fight. Tank showed up hours late, barely engaged, and looked like he was there out of obligation rather than excitement. It wasn't the type of intense face-off that gets people talking, and Roach didn't bring any fire, either instead of heated exchanges or a war of words. It was just a quiet, awkward event that confirmed what everyone already suspected: this fight wasn't personal, it wasn't competitive, and it wasn't something that truly excited Davis. That's why the first episode of Gloves Off had to work overtime to make Tank seem locked in, like this was another legendary chapter in his story. The narrator's line, Tank is looking to use this next chapter to further.
And I promise you, you better lead them home. You better lead the females home. On my mother, you better lead the females home and the kids. On my mother.
Beating a guy who's naturally smaller and less experienced at this weight. This isn't a legacy fight, and both Davis and the people promoting it know that. Still, the episode gave us a look into Tank's mindset. Barry Hunter, now being credited as Davis's trainer, said that from the time he was a kid, Tank's biggest fear was losing. That part made sense. Tank has never wanted to be embarrassed, and he's built his entire career around keeping that 0 in his record intact. Some critics argue that's why his matchmaking has been so calculated. He's not scared of opponents, but he's scared of what losing would do to his image. Hunter's story about a young Davis crying at an Adrian Broner fight because he wanted that spotlight so badly was a Now he is the attraction. But even with all the money, fame, and knockouts, that fear of losing never left. Davis admitted it himself in the episode. He's not just afraid of losing, he's afraid of being clowned for it. In boxing, getting knocked out isn't just about losing a fight. It's about becoming a meme, and Tank, laughing as he said, "I ain't got time for that," made it clear he's not just training to win, he's training to avoid humiliation. That's why this fight is happening in the first place. Roach is a safe option. He's skilled, but not dangerous. He's confident, but not reckless. He's good enough to give Tank some rounds, but not good enough to pull off the upset. And most importantly, he's not a big puncher. Roach, for his part, just happy to be here. His biggest moment in the episode wasn't a fiery statement or a bold prediction. It was showing the breakfast he eats in training camp. He didn't try to sell the fight by talking trash or making wild claims. He simply said he wanted a big fight and said yes immediately when the opportunity came. But Roach did address one of the most bizarre moments leading up to this fight, Tank's Instagram post from December, where he randomly claimed the fight is canceled.